With that, I bring in Joel Klatt, voice of college football at our network, Fox NFL draft analyst as well. Check out his mock draft on foxsports.com and at NFL on Fox. It's out new. Okay, so I look at it, Klatster, and Bengals take Burrow, Chargers take Tua. You have no Justin Herbert in the first round. What do you say for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, where the teams are slotted, I had a hard time fitting him in.
Yeah.
Okay, so I fully expect him to go in the first round. Colin, I just think it's going to be a trade to do so. Right? So as I was just going through the practice, I could have given the Dolphins Herbert at 18 or maybe even 26, and I thought about it really hard at 18, but I went with the linebacker Patrick Queen from LSU anyways. Listen, I'm not quite as high on Herbert as others, so that's going to influence this mock draft. Now, and I'm also one that's trying to be realistic about where people will and won't get drafted, and Herbert is a glaring omission from this mock draft, so I'll admit that. However, I will suggest that when you look at next year's draft with Fields and Lawrence, there might be quarterback-needy teams that won't take the risk on a guy like Herbert or Love, because I do believe that there is a significant drop-off between our top two quarterbacks in the draft, Burrow and Tagovailoa, and then once you get down to Herbert and Love have substantial risk, and I would argue that Herbert, while maybe the safer pick over Love, doesn't have quite the ceiling, in large part because, Colin, we've seen him play a substantial number of snaps. He's got a lot of experience at the college level, and he still is making some of the same mistakes and has some of the same traits that he struggled with in his youth, if you will, at Oregon. So those are the reasons, but I will say that I do believe he'll be drafted in the first round. Where, I'm not quite sure. I do believe it's going to be a trade at some point once you get down past, like, pick 15.
Well, Miami's got the most picks, so it won't be a surprise that Miami has a very good draft. You have them, and I don't think this is crazy. I did not see your mock draft before I said this, my staff as a witness. I said last hour, 30 minutes ago, I said, don't be shocked if Miami doesn't take a quarterback, and says to themselves, you know what, Ryan Fitzpatrick, we're going to go and solve our defense. Brian Flores has a defensive background, or our offensive line. And then with one of their two other first-round picks, goes for Jordan Love, who is a developmental prospect, but they have Ryan Fitzpatrick for a year, so they can just sit him for a year and let him figure it out. So you have the Dolphins taking Tristan Wirfs, a big, beefy offensive tackle from Iowa. I don't think it's nuts. I got to be honest with you. Nobody's discussing this. Why do you have him taking a tackle?
Well, they need tackle help, first of all. They have all of that draft stock like you were talking about. And when you look at what I believe they're going to be trying to do from a model perspective, I think it's going to, in some cases, mirror what New England was trying to do for all of their years. And so when I look at their offensive line, I see big offensive tackles, in particular. A guy like Nate Solder comes to mind, who went to Colorado. Now he's not in New England anymore, but he was there for a substantial part of this run. Wirfs is athletic, so he can get out on the screen game. He's incredibly athletic. You saw that at the Combine. He's also young. He's going to grow even a little bit more. He's huge. He's physical. He can grate in the run game. And I just think he's a great prospect, in particular at the tackle position, where I think he's got the highest upside of any of these tackles. Now, it wouldn't shock me if they went Mekhi Becton, who's a gigantic player from Louisville. It wouldn't shock me if they went Wills from Alabama, or even maybe Andrew Thomas, but those might be a reach at 5, whereas Wirfs, at least as a prospect, can project into that top 5 because of his incredible athletic ability.
By the way, you have 7 or 8 wide receivers in the first round. Why in the world would I draft a wide receiver in the first round when there's 60 available in this draft?
Yeah, I mean, going through this, I couldn't agree with you more. Now, when you look at some of these team needs, a lot of people need wide receivers. So as the NFL, at least in my estimation, is more wide receiver needy than they've ever been, this might be the deepest wide receiver draft that we've ever seen. And what happens is once you get a run on a position, Colin, you know this, you've been covering the draft and watching the draft for so long, it's a bit of a domino effect, right? So once you get the first wide receiver off the board, then people say, well, we better go get our guy. Well, we better go and get our guy. And then all of a sudden what you get is teams at the back end of the first round, who I would say absolutely have to get wide receivers, like the Vikings and the Packers, may be sitting there with quality wide receivers because of the depth of the position. I've got Denzel Mims going to the Minnesota Vikings and then Brandon Ayuk from ASU going to the Packers. I really think those two teams are going to be selecting wide receivers late. And so when I'm going through this exercise, it's just a domino effect of teams ahead of them took wide receivers. There's first-round graded wide receivers available, so I gave them to those teams late in the first round.
You know what I just noticed? I always use the American Idol example that they only give you about 15 seconds to sing an American Idol because talent jumps off the television set. These guys complaining about pro days, my takeaway is talent jumps off the TV set. You only have 6 seniors going in the first round. It is a junior, meaning the really good players don't need to stay in college forever.
That's right.
Six seniors. Now, I want to segue to this. Pro days. Okay, Johnny Manziel, Sam Bradford, Jamarcus Russell had great pro days. Teddy Bridgewater was awful. He's the one that just got the money. Here's why I don't like pro days. Because I'm sitting next to a bunch of scouts, and I can be influenced by their oohs and ahs and body language. And in the end, I'm talking myself into stuff that I've already seen on tape. And I also don't like it because it's the most comfortable workout a player has. And the NFL's about discomfort, not comfort. So I don't buy pro days have major influence. What do you think?
Well, I think that they have. Listen, I agree with you in principle. Unfortunately, I think that at times teams get sucked in and decision makers get sucked in and place too much importance on them. I couldn't agree with you more. Listen, pro days, in particular from a quarterback, you have to understand, and let me just describe this. I don't know if people really understand this, but quarterback's the only position that designs their own pro day workout. Okay, they bring in their own private coach. They get out there, and it's very comfortable. Hey, we're going to throw 5 passes to the left and 5 passes to the right, and they're going to be in this tree, and this is what we're going to try to show you. All the other guys, all the other position groups, save for the wide receivers who are running routes for the quarterback, they get taken through a workout by just one of the scouts in the building. So for sake of argument, the New York Giants linebacker coach or scout is out there, and he's like, okay, give me all the linebackers. And he just starts throwing them through impromptu drills. They can't get ready for them. They're seeing the drill for the very first time. And so they're uncomfortable in those settings. So I genuinely believe that pro days are much better of an evaluation period for every other position outside a quarterback because of that comfortable aspect that you were talking about. If you're looking at what you get watching a quarterback in pro days, virtually nothing. Now, here's what I would say, Colin. If you see him doing things that you haven't seen on tape, throw up a big caution flag, right? This should be for confirmation only. No new information. Okay, if you show me that all of a sudden you can throw that route in shorts and the T-shirt, I'm actually going to downgrade you because I'm like, wait, why can't you take it from the practice field onto the tape and put that into action during game play? Then the other two things that I think are most important about the pro day time is that you actually can sit with the quarterback and meet with him, talk with him about X's and O's, talk with him about his scheme and your scheme, see if he can pick it up. And then you can have access to the entire collegiate staff. You can talk to the academic support advisor. You can talk to the trainer. You can talk to the assistant trainer. You can talk to the strength coach. You can talk to the position coach. You can talk to the opposing coordinator from that player. And you can get a really good picture of what this kid is as a person holistically once you bring him into your building. And I think those are the most important parts of pro day. But when it comes to just the actual physical aspect of the quarterback throwing, I think it's the most overrated thing in the draft process, period.
By the way, you set 12 Colorado passing records when you quarterbacked the Buffaloes. You had a pro day. How'd it go?
Well, 12 in my first year starting, 44 overall. Get it right. Facts don't care about your feelings. So, but who cares about that? My pro day was horrendous. Okay, here's the deal, Colin. We had no wide receivers coming out for the draft, so I had nobody to throw to. I had a couple of tight ends that were coming out, a running back that was coming out. If you remember, a guy named Lawrence Vickers was a fullback that was coming out, 2 tight ends, Joe Klopfenstein and Quinn Sebnewski, who played for a little bit. in the National Football League, but we had to pull guys that were just like NFL free agents at the time that were working out at this place called Velocity down the road, and I had to bring them out and throw to them. It was terrible. And let me just tell you that my strength was never sitting in shorts and a T-shirt and getting people to ooh and ah at my arm strength. But what I could do was operate a system. So it was not lost on me that I earned my contract, albeit an undrafted free agent contract, because I went to rookie minicamps both in Detroit and New Orleans without contracts and earned them over those 3 days by operating the system during those 3 days. I could get us in and out of the huddle. I could operate the checks. I could throw the football on time, so on and so forth. Now, I didn't have nearly the ability or the stature or the medical record to stick in the NFL, but that's the process that was better for me. And so from a young age, I knew that pro days were worth very little as it relates to what that player's success is going to be at the next level.
Yeah, that's a pretty little. I have big 44 records at Colorado, right? Is that what you said?
Well, I mean, I don't think many of them are standing now, but, you know, give me a pigskin, I'll throw it over that mountain.
Yeah, I think they used to run like the wishbone or something. That's probably why it broke all those things.
That's right. See, but that's smart of me, Colin.
Yeah.
You gotta respect the fact that I was smart enough to go to a place that had very low expectations, used to run the wishbone, and it's like, then you can leave with all the records, right? You're
right. All right, hey, okay, one more. His mock draft, by the way, is at foxsports.com and NFL on Fox. That's a Twitter thing. All right. What the hell do I do with Isaiah Simmons? Every time I watch Clemson, he makes every other tackle. He doesn't have a position. He reminds me of Shaq Thompson, Carolina out of Washington. He was a great high school safety. They used him at running back. He could be linebacker, and he's a good player. I like Shaq Thompson. What do I do with Isaiah Simmons? Where does he go, and what do I do with him?
Isaiah Simmons is the second safest pick in the entire draft. You said it in your question. Every time I turn on the tape, he makes every play.
Every play.
Why wouldn't you want that?
Oh no, I agree.
I don't care where he lines up. What, you care where he lines up if he makes every play?
No,
line him up like 10 yards away from the ball. Who cares? He's always at the football. Isaiah Simmons is a phenomenal player. And remember now, in today's game, what do we see more and more of? We see hybrid players being more important, both offensively and, Colin, defensively. So it's going to pay huge dividends for whatever teams draft Isaiah Simmons, that he can play safety and cover well and has great range. He can play linebacker. He can cover the slot. He can be in the box. Yeah. He can also blitz off the edge. So he's dominant, not just good, but dominant at every level of defense. I think that's an incredibly valuable commodity when you're talking about defense in the modern age.
Oh, by the way, I didn't ask you this. I thought I did. My producer reminded me, Greg, I didn't. Tua's pro day tape. What'd you make of it?
Fine. I mean, I don't care. I don't care how you look right now. I think Tua is a fabulous player. I love his game. He's not quite Burrow, but that's mainly because of the injury history that he's suffered. Again, you know what I can't see in a pro day? Is the fact that my biggest knock on the field with Tua is that he thinks he's more elusive than he is.
Yeah.
That one trait has led to all of his injuries. He thinks he can get away from guys. He can't. They roll up on his ankles. He's had 2 ankle injuries and a fractured hip because of that one trait that I think is very concerning, in particular when you're moving up a level and all those players around you are going to be bigger and faster.
Joe Klatt set 44 records at Colorado. Most don't exist now. Most don't exist because they did move to the forward pass slightly soon after. All right, Klattster. Right. Good talking to you, buddy.
Put some respect on it. I love it, Colin. Thanks, brother.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.